Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, from Bhagavatam. Canto 2, Chapter 4, Text 21. Yad angre abhityana samadhi dutaya yana pasyamti tattvamatmanaha Vidanti chaitat kavayo yatarutram Same Mukundo Bhagavan Vishatam Angriya Vityana Samadhi Dutaya Yana Pasyanti Tattvam Atmanaha Vedanti Jaitat Kavayo Yatarucham Same Mukundo Bhagavan Prasidatam Angriya Vidyana Samadhi Dutaya Yana Pasyanti Tattvamatmana Nanti Chaitat Kavayo Yatarucham Same Mukundo Bhagavan Prasidatam
Yadangyapi dhyana samadhi dotaya
Yak Angri, whose lotus feet, Adhyana, thinking of at every second, Samadhi, trance, Dutaya, being washed off, Diya, by such clean intelligence, Anupasyanti, does see by following authorities. He, certainly, Tattvam, the absolute truth, Atmanaha, of the Supreme Lord, and of oneself. Adanti, they say, Cha, also, Etat, this, Kaivaya, philosophers or learned scholars, Yatarucham, as he thinks, Sa, he, me, mine, Mukunda, Lord Krishna who gives liberation, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Prasiddhatam, be pleased with me. Translation purport by Sri Prabhupada. It is this personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who gives liberation by thinking of his lotus feet at every second, following in the footsteps of authorities. The devotee in trance can see the absolute truth. The learned mental speculators cannot think of him according to their whims. May the Lord be pleased with me. Poor. The mystic yogis, after a strenuous effort to control the senses, may be situated in a trance of yoga just to have a vision of the supersoul within everyone. But the pure devotee, simply by remembering the Lord's lotus feet at every second, at once becomes established in real trance. Because of such realization, his mind and intelligence are completely cleansed of the diseases of material enjoyment. The pure devotee thinks himself fallen into the ocean of birth and death, and incessantly prays to the Lord to lift him up. He only aspires to become a speck of transcendental dust at the lotus feet of the Lord. The pure devotee, by the grace of the Lord, absolutely loses all attraction for material enjoyment, and to keep free from a contamination, he always thinks of the lotus feet of the Lord. King Kulashekara, a great devotee of the Lord, prayed, "My dear Lord Krishna, I pray that the swan of my mind may immediately sink down to the stem of the lotus feet of your Lordship, and be locked in their network. Otherwise, at the time of my final breath, when my throat is choked up with cough, how will it be possible to think of you?" There is an intimate relationship between the swan and the lotus stem. So the comparison is very appropriate. Without being a swan or paramahamsa, one cannot enter into this network of the lotus feet of the Lord. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, the mental speculators, even by dint of learned scholarship, cannot even dream of the absolute truth by speculating over it for eternity. The Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to such mental speculators, because they cannot enter into the network stem of the lotus feet of the Lord. All mental speculators differ in conclusions, and at the end they make a useless compromise by saying, "As many conclusions, as many ways, according to one's own inclination." But the Lord is not like a shopkeeper trying to please all sorts of customers in a mental speculator exchange. The Lord is what he is, the absolute personality of Godhead, and he demands absolute surrender unto him only. The pure devotee, however, by following the ways of previous acharyas or authorities, can see the Supreme Lord through the transparent medium of a bona fide spiritual master. The pure devotee never tries to see the Lord by mental speculation, but by following the footsteps of the acharyas. Therefore, there is no difference of conclusions amongst the Vaishnava acharyas regarding the Lord and the devotees. Lord Chaitanya asserts that living entity, Jiva, is eternally the servitor of the Lord, that he is simultaneously one with and different from the Lord. This tattva of Lord Chaitanya is shared by all four sampradayas of the Vaishnava school, all except eternal certitude to the Lord even after salvation. And there is no authorized Vaishnava acharyas who may think of the Lord and himself as one. This humbleness of the pure devotee, who is 100% engaged in his service, puts the devotee of the Lord in a trance by which to realize everything. Because to the sincere devotee of the Lord reveals himself, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 10:10. The Lord, being a Lord of intelligence in everyone, even in the non-devotee, favors his devotee with proper intelligence so that automatically the pure devotee is enlightened with the factual truth about the Lord and his different energies. The Lord is revealed not by one's speculative power, but by one's verbal jugglery over the absolute truth. He reveals himself to a devotee when he is fully satisfied by the devotee's service attitude. Sukadeva Goswami is not a mental speculator or a compromiser of the theory of as many ways, as many conclusions. Rather, he prays to the Lord only, invoking his transcendental pleasure. This is the way of knowing the Lord. Om Agyan Timirandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakyananikamya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Prabhupada's talking here in the beginning about the yoga system. How the yoga system actually is divided into three parts. We've got the Jnana Yoga, the Dhyana Yoga, and the Bhakti Yoga. So in the beginning, one may practice this eightfold yoga system. You know, the yoga asanas, breath control, trying to control the mind and the senses. You know, the yogis, they used to go in the Vedic times, they'd go deep into the forest, into the jungle, and just remain alone, try and avoid any distractions. In those days, they didn't have their mobile phones and their computers and their internet. They just went in there with their kusha grass mats and their water pots, and they would just sit there in meditation, practicing very rigorous austerities, you know, very regulated eating habits and sleeping habits, you know, and bathing in the holy river each day, and just trying to practice fixing the mind on the super soul and the heart. And actually, as I said, after many years, even perhaps thousands of lifetimes, the super soul eventually, they reach this samadhi where the super soul in the Lord eventually appears before them, and they can actually see the super soul, that four-armed form of Vishnu before them. So in Bhakti Yoga, it's mentioned here, I mean, all forms of spiritual practice, whatever we do, when you think about it, we do a lot of different things. Chanting the holy names, doing all different types of service, making garlands, cooking, doing the duty worship, you know, buying the burger, growing the vegetables, milking the cows. So Srila Prabhupada, he mentioned all these different forms of spiritual practice are really only a different type of meditation that we do for remembering the Lord. Because let's see, this remembrance of the Lord, it's said to be the topmost perfection of yoga or meditation. It's just to place that beautiful form of the Lord in the lotus of the heart and just remember him, his beautiful form, his transcendental pastimes, his qualities, his reciprocation of love with his pure devotees. So many different ways. And by these activities, we directly penetrate into the Lord's association and directly associate with him. And by this direct association, our hearts become purified. So to be able to come to that realization, to realize that, you know, the Supreme Lord is a transcendental person, is the topmost rung in the yoga ladder. And it can only be understood and realized by those who connect to this incredible parampara, the cyclic succession of bona fide spiritual masters who are empowered to elevate us and enlighten us with genuine spiritual understanding. And this descending knowledge coming down is the best and most perfect way of receiving knowledge. So it's mentioned, you know, when the devotees are just absorbed in this bhakti yoga, this loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, they can experience this transcendental love within the heart. The heart becomes flooded with devotional sentiments. And of course, one of the most classic examples was Madhavendra Puri. Today's his appearance day. He was also known as Madhava Puri. And he belonged to the disciplic succession coming from Madhvacharya. I think he's like, three steps down, three disciplic successions down from Madhavendra. He was actually the spiritual master of Veda Acharya, and his most beloved disciple, Ishvara Puri, became the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya. And it is said this Madhavendra Puri was an amazing personality. He was just so filled with love for Krishna. Actually, he was so filled with love for Krishna, even when he saw a dark rain cloud, it would remind him of Krishna, he would fall unconscious. He was just swimming in this love for Krishna. And day and night, it is said it was as if he was like drunk. He was like drunk on love for Krishna. Sometimes he stood up, sometimes he just fell down. He didn't know sometimes whether he was standing or falling or lying or sitting or standing. He could not discriminate, whether it was day or night, or whether he's in the proper place or not, whether he was, sometimes he was in someone's house, he couldn't remember whose house he was in, then sometimes, he just forgot who he was. Just imagine that. I mean, we see people in the material world, when they fall in love, they get kind of a bit dreamy, like this. But these loving sentiments, they just go beyond what we experience in this world, in our loving reciprocation with each other. Just imagine, you're so much in love that you just forget who you are. And it's not if you just went down to the local airport and caught an internal flight to Jagannath Puri, or jumped on the local express train. But he walked. He walked from Vrindavan to Jagannath Puri. How far is that? Incredible. And then when he got to Jagannath Puri, he kind of ventured down. He ventured down to South India because he wanted to see this famous deity down there in Ramuna called the Gopinath deity. And when he saw the Gopinath deity, he was just in so much ecstasy. He was chanting and dancing and experiencing all the ecstatic symptoms. And he was thinking, I wonder what they offer the deity here, because maybe I can find out what they offer here, and I can offer this to my Gopal. And then he found out that this temple was famous because they made this very special sweet rice. And they used to offer 12 earthen pots of this sweet rice to the deity every night. And this sweet rice was so famous, it got a nickname, Amrita Kelly. So when Madhavendra Puri heard about this sweet rice, he said, wow, I want to cook the sweet rice for my Gopal. And he said, I've got to find out how they cook the sweet rice. So he thought, if I just taste the sweet rice, then I'll know what they're putting in the sweet rice. I can be able to tell. But then he thought, oh my God. And just as he was thinking like that, they brought the sweet rice into the deity room to offer. And he was so ashamed. He was thinking, I've been thinking about eating this sweet rice before Krishna even got the sweet rice. We know that traditionally in deity worship and Vedic culture, we don't try and lust on the food before it's offered. We don't try and enjoy the food. We try and be cooking in this consciousness that we're cooking this for Krishna, and we just, he's the one that's going to be the first enjoyer of this food. So, he stayed there, and after the arti, he was so ashamed. He just went off to the marketplace, and he just sat in a local village marketplace, and he was just chanting, chanting all night. And then that night, the priest, he had a dream, and that Gopinath deity came to him in the dream. He said, I want you to go to the deity room and unlock the door, and I've hidden a pot of sweet eyes behind the curtain for Madhavendra Puri. You know, sometimes people think, you know, the deity's just a statue or a prayer. You know, Prabhupada, he used to really tell us this, you know, you should never, we should, you know, the whole process of deity worship is meant to be done with enthusiasm and precise attention. And really realize that actually Krishna is really here. He's really here. He said, you should be thinking with enthusiasm, I've got to cook a really nice offering for Krishna, so he really enjoys it. I've got to make the best garlands for Krishna. I've got to dress Krishna so nicely that he'll be pleased. I've got to offer this arti so nicely for Krishna's pleasure. This enthusiasm's there. And of course, precise attention, everything should be done very systematically, on time, you know, everything should be very clean. He said, if that enthusiasm is there, then he said, then that with that devotion, the very deity will actually speak to you. He'll speak to you. But he said, if there's no enthusiasm there, if you're just thinking this is just a brass-made doll, you know, and you know, you just get into the deer room at the last possible moment, just throw some clothes on. Oh, I've done my service. Or you just get in there and just throw an offering together. You don't even care if it's good or not. If it becomes like that, and you just start thinking that this is just a brass-made doll, then Prabhupada said, then Krishna will just remain a brass-made doll to you forever. There'll be no. But you know, if you're really thinking this is Krishna and you've got to serve him very nicely, then you'll actually develop a very intimate relationship with Krishna, and he'll reciprocate with you in so many ways. There's one famous story. You know, there's this old devotee. Actually, he used to travel with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was on the Sankirtan around India. And he got too old, he couldn't travel anymore, so he just stayed in this one place. And he built a temple there in this village, and he asked Lord Chaitanya, you know, can I carve a deity of you and Nityananda and worship you? And I think there must be some rule that you're not supposed to do that while the Lord's present. But he got the permission. He had these beautiful Nimud deities carved, life-size, of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So he was worshipping them very nicely. And then one day, Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya on the Sankirtan, they're chanting through the villages, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. They came to his house. They came to see him. And then he was so happy, you know. And then as Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda were leaving, they were walking off, he said, "Stop! Stop!" Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda stopped. And then he turned to the deities, he said, "Let them go, you stay." Suddenly, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda just became the deities.